Welcome to the video on power leveling in Kunark. Now that the Kunark expansion is out, we get a level cap increase from levels 50 to 60, which means that you need to now hit level 39, maybe 40, I think it's 39, to group with the level 60. So that will be your goal in the type of damage shield power leveling we'll be doing in this video. However, if you have stun lock set up with the 3 to 5 enchanters, you can power level as high as you want. But for most of us doing damage shields and doing our own leveling and not selling power leveling services, we will be stopping at about level 39-40 and grouping it with at least one high level 60, if not a full group, and continue our leveling session that way. At that point, it turns into assisted leveling and not necessarily power leveling, although you will move rather quickly. So before we begin, it is mandatory that I cover a few basic details. These details are discussed in length in my how to power level video, but I will include this at the beginning of each video. These zones are picked for the sole purpose of power leveling, meaning they have a mass quantity of mobs that can be pulled readily. When you power level, you're going to be pulling sometimes 20, 30, 50 mobs in the beginning, and you're going to be killing them all at once, and you're going to repeat that process. So if your setup doesn't involve 3 to 6 high level characters, after level 20, this guide is not going to be the most efficient for you. You'll be able to find a lot smaller areas and less populated areas that will work well for assisted leveling. So having covered that, stun lock leveling, which is having 3 to 5 enchanters, rotating their stuns so that you can pull the entire zone at once, and the mobs as they come in are just permanently stunned. That is the preferred way to power level. That is how they sell power leveling services. However, I don't sell power leveling services, and I will never have 3 to 5 enchanters just for that purpose. What I typically like to do is have one of every class to add to my big multi-box group of 12 to 18 characters. So 3 to 5 enchanters, as fun as that may or may not be, they'll never be included in my setup. So the way I power level is with damage shield power leveling. To do this, you want to have at least 3 characters. You want to have a druid, a paladin, and a bard. That is my preferred setup. The druid obviously with the big damage shield and heals, the paladin for the big pulls plus healing plus resurrection, which resurrection is actually really important because sometimes you make an error on your low level, they die, and if you can't resurrect them, then it's a long corpse run and it takes away from your leveling time. And the bard is for crowd control, mana regen, health regen, and also enhances the druid's damage shield. If you decide to power level a melee character, it is highly recommended that you power level a bard or some type of AoE DPS with it. Even if you discard that character once you're done power leveling, it makes it so much easier to pull in 50 mobs and just cast a couple of AoE DDs, direct damage spells, and have it be done with, or a bard playing an area effect damage spell. Versus having to hit every single mob with your melee character, it's not optimal. So in the early levels, you can do something called hit and run, where you actually buff up the character you're power leveling, and you run hit something once, move to the next one, hit it, and you keep going until you've gathered up enough mobs. The problem with that is your melee character is going to be taking all those hits, so if you make a mistake or don't heal in time to get aggro off of that character, it can go bad. Plus, then you also have to gear up that character with some type of hit points, or twink gear as they call it. The way I do it with having a second character with my melee character and power leveling, most times a wizard, is that you don't have to gear up anyone because none of them characters should be taking damage. Having said that, my goal is to get to level 39. Of course, if you have the stun lock enchanter set up, you're probably not going to be reading this guide. You probably already know what you're doing since you have that set up. So I'm assuming that you're coming here to do some actual power leveling, kind of similar to what I'm doing. In the Kunark, we get the addition of the City of Mist, Halloween Stones, and Chardok. However, the main route is still going to be 1 through 15 done in Unrest Courtyard, and you do that by picking a spot in the courtyard, pulling all the mobs to that spot, and repeating. If you want to stay in Unrest, maybe up to level 20, 25, maybe 30, but it will slow down tremendously because there just aren't enough mobs. You can pull the inside of the building as well as the basement area, but I leave at typically 15 because that's when the courtyard starts to slow down. And the next spot you will be going to is still Sol A. Sol A will be one of the main power leveling spots for a long time to come yet. There's just so many mobs and the experience is so good. So you run into the zone, you come onto the bridge area as indicated on the map, and you pull the entire north area, kill, pull the entire south area, kill. If you cannot do the entire north or south area, you can pull each section in 2 pulls. The thing that will determine how much you can pull as you start going up in levels is really how many characters you're using to assist and what type of gear they have. They should all be max level 60 with some of the best gear in the game to make the most optimal power leveling. And even though I say you need a bard, druid, and paladin, I also run with an enchanter, cleric, and shaman, so I have max buffs and max heals and a lot of resurrections. So no matter what situation I get in, I can handle a large quantity of mobs even though the level cap is 60. And from Sol A, we will still be heading to Lower Guk. Now that we are level 60, we'll be able to pull more of Lower Guk at a time, probably the entire Crusader area, most of the King area, and definitely the assassin camps in the cave will be able to pull a tremendous amount of mobs now at this point. And then from 40 to 60, we're going to do Chardok. As I said, when you get to level 39, you can group with a level 60. I like to put the character I'm power leveling with my highest damage level 60. And even though you take an experience hit, that level 60 can then do all the damage and beat on the mobs. And you can still have a lot of characters outside of the group beating on the mobs as well. As long as your group consisting of your highest damage, level 60, and the character power leveling outdo the damage of everybody else individually, you'll still get experience. I usually have about 6 melee characters that are max level, also beating on the mobs I pull in when I get to this point. And what I do is I keep them ungrouped so they're just solo. And like I said, because I use my highest DPS level 60 plus the damage of the level 39-40 when I start out grouping those two, they get experience every time because of the group with the most damage. So that's how I take over the power leveling. It turns into more of like assisted leveling. But if you were running 12 to 18 characters and you had, say, 6 to 12 melee outside of the group individually, and they were beating on mobs, it tends to go almost as fast as power leveling when you chain pull them in. So here's where we get to alternatives. We still have from levels 20 to 35 Castle Mistmore. At level 20, you'll be kind of at the beginning entrance. And then as you progress toward level 30, you can head to the actual castle, and you could actually stay in Mistmore till about 40. We also have City of Mist. Now, a lot of people dislike City of Mist because the experience is bad. There is no zone experience modifier in City of Mist, and if there is, it is actually negative. The thing about City of Mist after that revamp is that the mobs have half HP. They hit harder, but they have half HP. So when you're using damage shield leveling and you can get some high level mobs, you know, in the level 30 to 50 range that have half the HP of a typical 30 to 50 mob, using a damage shield, that's like prime area for damage shield leveling. Now, if you can handle the damage coming into you, those mobs are going to die quick. So even though you're getting probably about half as much experience per kill in City of Mist, you're also able to kill twice as fast. Plus, there's a lot of mobs. So City of Mist is absolutely a good alternative power leveling spot. And then the next place that we have as an alternative is Howling Stones or the Karasis. Now, the problem with Howling Stones is that you need a key to enter, and yeah, the key isn't so hard to get, but even if it takes you like an hour to get a key, 30 minutes just from moving there and getting the key, or maybe you already have the pieces, you still need to have the key on your entire power leveling group, and then the new character that you're leveling. And we're talking about power leveling. 1 through 60 is going to be less than a 24-hour process. Like, even if you're kind of slow, you're going to hit levels 1 through 40, especially if you use an experience potion, in probably less than 5 hours. And to go from 40 to 60 is probably going to be another 8 to 12 hours, depending on what your group makeup is, and if you're still power leveling or if you switch to assisted power leveling. So, I mean, when you start talking about taking an hour to get a key even, when you could just go to City of Mist or Lower Guk or even part of Chardok and just grind for that whole hour, I mean, is it worth it? I don't know. That's up to you. It's probably being a lot quieter because you need a key. So it might be a good spot. It might be your spot, depending on where we're at on the TLPs and who's farming what. So that's the 1 through 60 route. It's Unrest to Soul 8 to Lower Guk to Chardok. You have alternatives in between of Castle Mistmore, City of Mist, and Howling Stones. Please leave any questions, comments, or feedback below, and thanks for watching.